you've got such a wealth of experience when it comes to preliminary finals. Dane was up to 9, with Tubbs 9. There's a wealth of experience, which is probably at odds a little bit with Hawthorn. Does that give you any advantage whatsoever, when once the ball's bounced?
I hope so, but it's never something that I've been able to assess with any clarity. This is maybe a little bit of a concession that I shouldn't make on the eve of a prelim final, but I don't feel that much better now than I did before my first prelim final. So I think experience does count to an extent, but my experience is that it's not like a kickback to say, I've been here before, it'll be fine. Like it's still, but again, coming back to that point about sort of the natural tension you feel, it's sometimes it manifests in sort of quite uncomfortable feelings, but pretty quickly you sort of get to the point where, and I think this is where the experience does help, like, these moments are what you need to go through to give yourself a chance at the big one. So I'd be surprised. Like my observation of them, they seem to have some young players that, pretty excitable, and they'll be up and about. I'd be staggered if those guys were thinking, looking at what I perceive to be high confidence levels, I'd be staggered if they thought, because we haven't been here before, we're at a huge disadvantage to the Cats who have been there a bit more.
John Newcomb's been in red hot form. How much work do you have to put into him?
Yeah, a lot, but we've probably thought that way for a long time around the competition, because it's actually not the right answer, in my opinion, to say when you're at this time of year against the best teams, they've all got good midfields. You kind of look around and whoever the bottom 4 couple of teams are, they've got stars in there as well. I think the competition is much more even in terms of those needle-moving players within teams than it's ever been. And Jai's sort of part of that for them, but he's not the whole picture. I sort of look at them and the way they've evolved, and they're quite complete. It's not. I think I might have. Well, someone made the observation with us. We've had a pretty good year, and we could only get 2 players in the All-Australian team. Battles in the All-Australian team. Sorry, just remind me, was there another Hawthorn player? Gunston, of course, yeah. But it's, I remember when Andrew Mackie was playing, I think it was 2008, they might have had 11 Geelong players in the All-Australian team. That's just not the competition anymore. And maybe it's because of the salary cap and equalisation and all those sort of things. But I think it's also because a lot of teams are realising if you just rely on 1 or 2 players and they get shut down, you're in big trouble. So I don't think the Hawks are in that category, but yeah, you'd have to be not watching to think Newcomb's been good for them.
Coaches roll with themes, Chris. Do you tend to roll into the emotional side of Geelong and Hawthorn? Or, I'm not saying that you would need motivation ahead of a prelim, but that added layer of rivalry, do you tap into that as a coach?
I tend not to, unless it feels absolutely authentic. I don't know. I barracked for Hawthorn as a kid, and like the '89 grand final was amazing, all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't shape the way I think about these games one way or the other. Like Hawthorn and Geelong had a great rivalry. Again, maybe this is a bit of a character flaw. Certainly when it comes to sort of the romanticism of the AFL world and the theatrics, I don't even really think that much about the rivalry we had when we were playing against them. I just think more pragmatically. There's a different era, completely different situation, different group of players. But I think early in my coaching career, I used to say those sort of things, and almost when I reflected on it, it almost came across as offensive to people that did get excited by that stuff. And that's not what I mean at all. I reckon the fans should be completely out of their skin when it comes to this game. I mean, you could hardly script it better. 2 sold out prelim finals at the MCG, Hawthorn Geelong on Friday night. Like, go for your life. But if the question is, like, I would feel inauthentic for me to say to the boys, hey, try a bit harder this week because it's the Hawks. Which I know it almost sounds a bit condescending, because some guys, coaches I really admire, do tap into that stuff with great effect. It's just not me.
Chris, can I circle back to Reece Stanley? Is that a 6:20 tonight decision, or is that a name and 6:40 tomorrow night?
I think with all as much transparency as I can possibly give, I reckon we'll make that decision in the next hour or two after we'll have a coaches meeting and sort of work through it. It's become real in the last few days because he's just been so good. So I'm doing everything I can not to think too far forward, but read into that what you will.
Chris, just on Stephen King heading across to Melbourne, must be sad to lose him, but pretty happy for him, eh?
More than pretty happy. Yeah, I'm rapt for him. I thought he was really well prepared 12 months ago, and sometimes when you miss what you think might be a really good opportunity, you wonder when the next time's going to come. So I just feel really happy for him that he's got that chance. He's really ready. It's a great acquisition for Melbourne, and leaves a big hole for us. But I think it's sort of, you can read too much into these things, but I do think that the fact that this will be one of the best days of his life, and I think back to the call I took from Neil Baum offering me the Geelong job. It's difficult to explain that feeling. And you'd be quite entitled if you were Kingy to be so consumed by that it was all he could think about. Like the way that he did what he needed to do with Melbourne and then just bounce back into his responsibility with us is something that I'll always be thankful for. So, we've got the opportunity to do something big. There's no guarantees, obviously, but I think even that small snapshot of a week or so, I think shows in part, how prepared he is and what a good job he's going to do with those guys.
Finals hasn't stopped Sam Mitchell from actively trying to recruit players to his club, and I know you're one that's big on walking and chewing gum at the same time. With Ryan Marshall and Charlie Kerner, do you still have time to lend consideration to what Geelong would try and do to land those players, given the immediacy of Prelim final and potentially grand final? Otherwise, you miss striking while the iron's hot, so to speak.
Yeah, I think we're in an interesting... it's almost an inflection point in the industry. I think we've been talking about it for a long time, that maybe not overtly in the early stages, but even if you go back, I can think of a specific example in 2013. I think it was might have been 2012. Clubs rarely chase players. Like, the managers sit down, and the guy that does it for us is sitting at the back, so he can chop me off at any stage when I get this wrong. But what I'm led to believe is that clubs sit down with managers all the time. And again, if you're sort of saying, do you have interest in this player? Whoever that player is, the answer is likely to be yes. So if that constitutes, clubs going after players, then okay, I guess technically that's true. But I think these questions are probably better directed at the player managers and how they want to do business. Now, I've never felt like to do my job well here that I just need to be 24/7 on the coaching part. It's much broader than that. So, but I just think it's a bit of a misconception that so the two players that you mentioned, we're not spending a whole lot of time going out chasing them. I think it's more likely the player managers doing their due diligence, and some do it privately, and some choose not to. Each to their own.
Travis both days are over.
Well, I was almost thinking like there's a statute of limitations passed where I can kind of say, well, if a player of Travis's ilk says to us, can you come and have a chat, we're likely going to go and have a chat.
Yeah, he won't be bothered by that now.
Who knows, he might end up working at the Cats and we can all, finally we'll get there.
Chris, Hewman and Watson are obviously great small forwards. Have you given consideration to Jeff Hughes being a potential for you tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'm certain. I've just got to check my... Jed will be in the squad. So, yeah, I think it's a similar question last game with Charlie Cameron. Yeah, absolutely at the forefront of our thinking. Those sort of guys, like Moore's an All-Australian. There's an argument to say that Moore's more advanced in his career than the two you mentioned. But yeah, they're an obvious threat, those small guys, and you need to have the players capable of playing on them.
Chris, Mark Blickup said that instead of watching the footy last weekend, put on a movie. Is that an unusual approach? You sort of let the players do their own preparation, however they want to go for their game?
Yeah, we are very much of the view that, we are confident that our players are professional, and at the same time individual in the way they go about it. So once you sort of tick the first box, then it's almost sort of up to you. I think some of our guys have sort of took the view that I wish I could take. I can't do it. I just had to watch it. But you're sitting there sort of finding yourself rooting for certain things, which is, makes it more uncomfortable. Some of the guys just chose to not watch it at all until they knew the outcome, and then you can watch it a bit more analytically. But no, I think more and more, I'm completely respectful of the guys that aren't footy heads. And we actually push the idea that if you get too consumed by footy, you let your frustrations get the better of you. So maybe just chilling out a little bit more and sort of having a bit more balance in your life is something that we could all think about.
What do you do tonight then? I know Shannon Neal will be having his 2 pizzas in the past. I think he does the same thing every match. What do you do to...
He must have a much better metabolism. Yeah, he's that won't work for me, the 2 pizzas and pasta. No, I'm actually pretty good these days. And maybe that's the experience bit. Like part of the experience, I think, is like acknowledging, you're going to be anxious, and I don't. You just can't run away from it. You've got to embrace it. So I think once I accept that, I kind of settle down a little bit more. But I think the parts where I get most anxious is if you feel like you've got huge issues that are going to be difficult to fix, because it's hard to fix them 24 hours out from a game. So that, if anything, just gives me a little bit more confidence. It's not a guarantee. I'm not forecasting anything, but we feel really comfortable in our preparation. And again, you sort of think about the conversations around what's better. I think if you could choose your route to this game, we would have chosen ours. And I think on the other side of the coin, if Hawthorn beat us, they've done it the hard way, and they will have deserved it. I don't know who asked the question. It's probably not answering your question.
Answer lots of questions.
Pizza, pasta, yeah.